Hey guys, it's week 4. We've made it to week 4 of the pantry challenge. It's crazy. I've been doing pretty good. I don't feel the challenges yet. It's just breaking the habit of going out and being out and coming home and cooking instead of grabbing fast food. Anyways, I wanted to come down today and I wanted to grab a chicken so I could cook it today, and then I'd have the meat for the rest of the week if there was something else I wanted to make with it. So I came down here and I poked my head in and I moved a couple of things around and I was like, what the heck? I didn't realize I had all this in here. So I ran upstairs, I got my camera, and I just wanted to share it with you. So it's kind of exciting. I know some of you might be like, yeah, not Dawn, it's not exciting. Anyways, so I started to go through here, and it kind of gives you an update too. I still have tons of Yop, which is that frozen yogurt I have. This is snow crab. There's a little bit of fat left. I'm allergic to shellfish, so I don't cook that, but Georgia absolutely loves it. So then there's a box of edamame, these little frozen pouches, so Georgia can eat those. She usually puts them, I think sometimes she puts them in the microwave and then she just eats them. But let me show you. Let me bring you a little bit closer, and so you can have a peek in with me. I don't know if you can see that or not. So I'm looking around. I don't think you can. Hang on. But I'm down here and I'm digging it out, and I'm like, okay, this is one of my chickens, one of my bigger chickens. So it was 7.4 pounds, and I'm gonna cook him up. And then I start digging. Let me see. I don't know if you can. Hang on. So then I start digging and I find, of course, more ribs. This whole thing of ribs. Put that to the side. Hopefully it doesn't fall in on me. And then I find 2 huge moose roast and a full pork loin like this here. I never knew I had it. So now I'm feeling a little bit better because now I don't have to worry about running out of meat or not having meat to eat. So yeah, 2 big roasts, which is great. Ribs, which is great, and I'm gonna cook that turkey today. So honestly, we put a big dent in my chest freezer. I have some Haskap berries down there. I think one day I'll take those out and maybe make jam, so you could join me when I do that. I'm going to cook this chicken today, and I know there's a lot of people out there that have never cooked a chicken or a turkey before, so I'm gonna give you a step-by-step instructions on how I do that. The only difference that you would probably make between a frozen chicken and a thawed chicken is going to be the time that you cook it. So I'm going to take this stuff up. I'm going to actually put the freezer back together. I'm going to move some of this meat into my upright freezer so then I can see what I have a little bit quicker or a little bit easier. I also have these Crave. I'm going to take a couple of these up because I don't mind eating them. My kids don't really eat them, but if I don't, out of sight, out of mind. So if I don't take them upstairs and see them, I'm not going to eat them. I'm going to let them know too that there's some Eggo waffles down here that they can eat if they want. And so yeah, so get the chicken in for breakfast today. Breakfast, lunch, brunch, whatever you want to call it. JT's asked for grilled cheese, so I'm going to go upstairs. I still have hot dog buns left over. That's the crazy question that gets my mind wondering. Couple weeks that I did. I think I did it the first week. Maybe it was the second week, but I'm pretty sure it was the first week that I made the French toast with the hot dog buns. These are the same hot dog buns, and they're not moldy, and they smell fine, but it gets me questioning what kind of chemicals do they put in these processed foods that hot dog buns are still look okay, I should say, to eat, smell okay to eat, but you know, what kind of chemicals do they put in it to preserve it? So I also have, I feel like I'm gonna sneeze. I also have the gluten-free bread that I made the other day, and I'm going to make grilled cheese for myself. GT will have the hot dog buns, grilled cheese, and a can of tomato soup upstairs. I'm gonna grab a bottle of my homemade tomato soup that I made in the past. So yeah, I know we're supposed to look out for her kids, but today I'm just gonna pump all the preservatives into him, and I'm gonna eat the natural stuff. Anyways, this is what the whole pantry challenge is about, getting rid of that stuff. I try my best to eat natural or to eat more healthier options, and sometimes we do a good job and sometimes we just completely suck, and that's okay. So I'm gonna clean this up, put stuff in the upright freezer, and then I'm gonna go upstairs and make grilled cheese, and then we're gonna get this chicken in the oven. Put my old lady shoes on. Skechers slip-ins. I just absolutely love them. Anyways, we're headed to Masstown Market to get potatoes. It's pretty good. I blasted 3 weeks. Yeah, because we're on week 4 out of the potatoes that I had left. And I think I only had like maybe 15 pounds, somewhere around there. I don't think it was 20. Anyways, I'm going to go and I'm going to grab a big bag of potatoes because I don't want to have to go back out again. So these potatoes are going to be anywhere between $17 and I think $30 maybe. So that's probably the end of my $100. So we just got back from Masstown Market, and Philip's been buying eggs because we didn't have any, so instead we decided to get a case of eggs. And we also bought the 50-pound bag of potatoes and homemade bread. I suck at slicing it and then putting it back in the bag. Anyways, Philip couldn't resist. He got his homemade bread. I think we spent like, how much? $100? I think we spent $100 alone at Masstown Market. And I grabbed a thing of bologna for my son because this is the gluten-free stuff. Okay, how to cook a chicken from frozen. Turkey. First step, get your chicken. If you have a rack, put the rack in the middle of or in the bottom of your roaster. I don't have one, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut up 2 onions. I'm gonna layer the bottom of the roasting pan with it. Okay, this is what my roaster looks like on the bottom. So I just have a layer of onions on the bottom, and then I'm gonna take my chicken and I'm gonna open it up. Some people think that you need to wash off the outside of your chicken before you start cooking it. I watched a documentary one time, and it's kind of a myth because they were talking. The documentary was all about antibiotics and having like our new antibiotics are like getting the bacteria are getting antibiotic resistant. So one of the things that they had said on there is when you wash your pots and pans, one of the things that you miss a lot of the times would be the handles. People would take this, put it in, and they'd wash this, but they don't think about the handle. So I'll put that in the sink now because I was just touching the chicken. Another thing they said on the documentary about taking your chicken out of the package is some people will put it in the sink and do that, and when you wash it, it actually sprays off all the different things or bacteria that could be on the outside of your chicken or turkey. So that's why they suggest not to wash them. So I'm not gonna wash this guy. I don't have to take anything out of the middle because the only thing I put in my chickens when I process them is the neck. So that's it. Put them on there. This is my breast side. It's kind of flat. I like to put them in upside down because the dark meat's on the top, but that way I don't have to baste it. The other thing said on the documentary too is all you need to be able to get rid of that stuff is just hand soap. We don't need or antibacterial soap, because what happens is they make that bacteria to be more resistant, and that's why we get superbugs. So all you really need is just to change the environment, which is soap and hot soapy water. So I'm going to take some salt, and I usually salt mine pretty heavy because I don't add anything else later on. Well, it's not really that heavy, just whatever, average. Pepper. I'm gonna have pepper that's already ground up, and I'm also gonna put some cracked pepper on it as well. I don't like cracked ground pepper because I don't like big chunks of pepper. So I like it when it's fine. But I'm gonna add some. I'm also going to add summer savory. You can add different spices. I have a little bit of rosemary here. I'm gonna add rosemary. I grow my own rosemary, and then I put it in the one of those NutriBullets or whatever, and I grind it up. It's just easier. And I find it tastes better because we don't have those little twigs. I'm gonna grab some sage and some rosemary as well, or thyme. So I'm gonna add some thyme. I don't grind this up because it's already small. So I just rub it in my hands. Thyme. Sage. Oops. And parsley. Now I just recently found out, people sometimes ask me, what's the purpose of parsley? What flavor does parsley give? And I read in a book that parsley actually will enhance the rest of the herbs and spices that you use. So there we go, we have that. And then I kept a couple of pieces of the onions, and I just like to put them on the top. They usually fall off. I don't oil it, I don't pat it dry, I don't do any of that. I cook it from frozen. Done. Put my cover on. Do you wanna? I don't add much water to the bottom just because it's frozen and a lot of the moisture is going to come out, but just in case I just add probably about half one of these, so what, half cup of water. Put my cover on. Put it in the oven. It's 1 o'clock. We want to eat by supper time, so I'm going to put it on 300. We're gonna check it. Now around this time, I flip it over. put it back in. Remember, you don't have to do this. You don't have to flip it over, but I do because I put it in upside down. So I don't have to be basting it all the time. You can just put it in right side up and just open it up every once in a while and pour the drippings over. Today is Monday. We are on week 3. Week 4. We're on week 4. And we went and got a lot of eggs yesterday, so I think I'm gonna have avocado toast without the avocado again. And I'm going to do it on, like I said before, I had the sweet potatoes. So I have one big one left and two small ones. So I think I'm just gonna heat those up and I'm gonna put the egg on top. So I put 3 eggs in, frying them up. I put my sweet potato in the microwave because the toaster just wasn't doing it. It was just too cold. Still too cold. So I didn't want it to get caught in the toaster, so I'd rather put it in the microwave for a minute to get it warmed up. We have, out of 2 loaves of bread that we bought yesterday, the homemade bread at Masstown Market, we have 4 slices left. So I put an extra egg in for my son JT, and I'm gonna make him a fried egg sandwich. Today school was canceled, so he's a happy camper. I'm just gonna play around here and try to get some work done as much as I can, working from home. Usually it's okay, but when you have a kid home, even if he is 17, sometimes he takes up more of my time than I would like. So I have his toast in the toaster. There's my sweet potato, and I'm gonna put my eggs on top and hoping, yeah, they're still runny, which is good. I have a hard time cooking eggs and keeping the yolk soft. So there we have it, breakfast. Good morning. It's Tuesday, week 4 for the Pantry Challenge. Last night I was downstairs putting away some of my jars that we've emptied. The other night when we had chicken, I emptied 2 carrot jars and a corn. So I had to put those away last night. And I came across a bag that had some flour in it. So I normally won't buy flour, like Robin Hood flour, any flour that has wheat in it. I buy the gluten-free flour just so that there's not a chance, or less of a chance, I should say, of cross-contamination because my oldest son is celiac. That does not mean that we don't buy things with wheat in it. I just try to be really diligent on what I buy, and we try to keep things like we bought the homemade bread from Masstown Market the other day, and Philip will buy Wonder Bread or whatever, and I just try to keep it over on the other side of the kitchen so it's not around here. We have a dedicated air fryer that we don't use anything with gluten in it, so my youngest son JT will have pizza pockets, yes, but they are frozen, they are sealed, so he can just take them out one at a time. I try not to have stuff that is gonna fly around. Now, having said that, I found the flour last night and I don't want it to go to waste, and my family ate up that homemade bread so quickly the other day that I thought today I would try to attempt to make some rolls or something with that flour. Hunter isn't here as much as he used to be, so I think the chance of cross-contaminating something is going to be probably low, just because, like I said, I'm really adamant about making sure I clean up and what gets done, and I move stuff around just so that, you know, the flour doesn't fly out and touch anything. So over here, my utensil holder. I'll probably move that over to the gluten-free area. I shouldn't say gluten-free area. The whole kitchen is pretty much gluten-free. I will put it in a more gluten-free area, like over by the air fryer and Hunter's toaster. And yeah, I'll just try not to be flying flour all over the place. So let's see what I can do. Let's see if I can make homemade bread. Never made it before. Let's see how this works. Okay, so the recipe I'm going to follow calls for 2 cups of warm water. And then it calls for, there's one. I know, I'm using a dry measuring cup. I can't help it. My glass one broke. 2 cups of water, and then it says 2 packages of yeast. And I believe, let me double check and see. I believe it's 2 1/4 teaspoons in a package of yeast, but I'm going to double check that. Hey Alexa, how many teaspoons are in a package of yeast?
1 package of yeast is equivalent to about 2.2 metric teaspoons of yeast.
So there we go. Alexa has us covered. 2.2 metric teaspoons of yeast. Calls for 2 packages. 2.2 teaspoons. So that will be 1, 2, 3, 4 teaspoons and a half, right? Because it says 2 packages of yeast. Now, I've always been told to keep your yeast in the freezer if you don't use it a lot, so it doesn't go expire, I guess, quickly. So I'm gonna stir this just a little bit to dissolve it, and it says to let it sit for about 10 minutes. So I'm just gonna put that to the side. And as I'm waiting, I'm going to read the rest of the recipe, and I believe it calls for 4 cups of flour. I got a big bowl out because I don't want to get, I don't want to start filling it up and having a bowl too small. So 4 cups of flour. This is a 2 cup measuring cup. Teaspoons of salt. I just had a teaspoon when I was measuring my yeast. See, this is what happens when you have an ADHD brain. You lose things. Found it. So 2 teaspoons, and I believe a 1/4 cup of salt. Or 2 teaspoons of salt. There's 1. There's the other one, and I believe a 1/4 cup of sugar. I'll go double check though. It is 1/4 cup of sugar. All together. Then it says to add a 1/2 cup of lard and mix it in with the flour. Okay, so 1/2 cup of lard. So it says to mix the lard in with the flour. So I'm assuming it would be similar to making biscuits. And I'm supposed to like break up the lard. That's what I'm doing. We'll soon find out if it's what I was supposed to do or not. Alright, so it says to start to mix this in with a fork. Well, I'm going to use my little pastry thing and we'll see what's going on. This looks pretty wet to me. So the recipe says add flour, so I'm assuming I can add a little bit more flour. if this is wet. I'm going to. So it says to knead for 5 minutes. I'm going to try to knead it just in the bowl because I just don't want as much flour around as I can. So now it says to set for 1 hour. In the meantime, I'm going to make a fried egg sandwich with the store-bought bread that Philip bought last night. I don't know. I'm trying. I know he's struggling, but you know, we're trying to get on the same page. Milk. Oh, wrong one. Milk, eggs, and bread. I'm going to have to take that in consideration next year. So I forgot to turn the camera on, so I punched down, I let the dough rise for an hour. I punched it down, laid it flat, and then I rolled it into almost like a log, and I put it in there. Now I'm gonna turn the oven to 350 and throw it in to see how we make out. Oh, and I did grease the loaf pans with the shortening or the lard. So, see what happens. So I took it out. Looks pretty good to me. Nice and brown, and I'm going to take a little bit of butter, because this is what my grandmother used to do. I don't know if I'm supposed to do it or not, but my grandmother used to always do the top of her bread. Looks good. Now we gotta figure out if it tastes good. So I'm getting ready to kind of make supper. It's halfway done already. JT came home after school. It's only 3 o'clock now, so it's quite early. JT came home after school and wanted rice and eggs like he always does. So I made him rice and eggs, and then I thought that would be perfect for supper, and then I can get rid of all those leftovers. So pulled all the meat from the chicken the other night. Philip made chicken sandwich with gravy this afternoon for lunch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to chop up some of this chicken, put in there. I put the rest of the broccoli, the rest of the corn, carrots, quite a few carrots, and I have some peas that I'm going to throw in too. But I'm going to make a little bit more rice because after JT took his big bowl full, there's not much rice left, and it's a lot of veggies. So I fill up my bowl about this much with rice. I just use minute rice for quick things like this. I have lots of white rice, but I'm still in the process of trying to figure out how I'm supposed to cook that stuff. So I'll put a little soy sauce in it now. And then I'll fill it with water. And I put as much in it so it looks like the rice is just below the surface. I'm gonna put this in the microwave for, I think I usually put it in for 6 minutes. It says you can do it for 5, I think it is, on the box, but I always do it for 6. So here's the peas that I had as well. It's a good way to just use up those leftovers, and it's almost like just stir-fried rice, right? It's a lot of veggies in there, but that's okay. I think it'll make a difference once I put more rice in it. I feel like this isn't big enough with everything I'm adding, so I'm going to transfer it into the pot. Yeah, I have more room to put some rice in there.
Is that all the rice that there was?
Oh, I'll make more now.
You are?
Yeah, you want some of this kind though? Or you don't want it with veggies?
I knew I was gonna want more.
Well, I have more rice up there.
Yeah. Can you give me
Without the veggies? Or are you just gonna have cereal?
No, I want it both.
You want it without the veggies or just rice?
Without the veggies. Just like rice.
Good morning. So it's been a while. It's been a really crazy busy week this week. Today is Saturday, and I think the last time I told you about any of our meals was Wednesday. I believe, or it might have been Tuesday. I can't remember. Last thing I cooked for my family that I remember videoing would be the fried rice or the chicken fried rice. So yeah, so now we're on Saturday. I think we're week 4. And I just wanted to show you what I'm gonna make for breakfast this morning. So you're probably wondering, well, what about Thursday, Friday, or Wednesday, Thursday? I can't remember. Yeah, Thursday, Friday. So I had a canning workshop to do. So usually when that happens, I'm pretty busy. So Thursday I got up and I've been making shakes with JT, or a shake for JT. And I've been making a little bit extra and throwing like a half a cup in for me. So I split it between us. So that's usually been my breakfast the rest of this week. Thursday, I did the canning workshop. So usually when I do the canning workshop, as we're preserving the food, I will take a bottle of the stuff that I've already canned and we'll heat it up so people can try it in the moment. So yeah, so we did that. We had, of course, deer meat stew again on Thursday. And then we had done some pork at the workshop. So I had 1 bottle of pork left to do, 1 pint-sized jar of pork left to do. And the time it takes to do meat is longer than any vegetables. So I didn't want, it was at the end of the day, I didn't want to have to stay there till 8 or 9 o'clock at night, because usually that's what happens. I have all these bottles left and then I'm stuck there, not stuck there, but I stick around so that the last batch can run through their canner. So I didn't want to stick around for 1 bottle, so I just brought that home and I fried it up in the cast iron frying pan. I added a little bit of bacon fat that I had in the fridge, fried that up, and I threw some onions in it, and I also had carrots. I opened a bottle of carrots that I had, and I put on some potatoes, so we have mashed potatoes. So it was a really easy supper, and I really like it because that's half the reason why I can't. On those nights that I don't have time to come home and do things, or I'm getting home late, it's quick and easy. So I do it because I know what's in my food, but I also do it for those convenience things. So then yesterday was Friday, same thing. I went to finish up the workshop. One of the women that I work with, she had made a whole bunch of chicken soup. So she had brought that in, and that's what we had for lunch. And then for supper last night, I had gone to the Truro Food Bank to do a workshop with them too. And I had brought the pork stew that I did the night before, and that's what I had for supper last night. Then of course I got home and I had popcorn, right? I have a puzzle going, and I started to do the popcorn. So then that brings us up today. So sorry I don't have any pictures or any videos, but like I said before, you're gonna get bored of seeing the same thing repeated. But this morning I got up and I made that, well, first I gotta clean up George's mess. Because in the meantime, she's making hot pot, but instead of taking her big hot pot that she got for Christmas, she'll just put it here on the stove. So she started this probably like 11 o'clock last night, 11:30 last night. She started to make that. So that means Mama gets up in the morning and has to clean it up, right? Isn't that what kids do? So I have my glass of water because for some reason where I was yesterday was really dry. But I have the bread that I made this week. And it's pretty good. I think I baked it too long. I put it in the oven, and then I did have a meeting for work online, and I just ran over and turned the oven off, but I didn't take it out of the oven right away, so I think it dried out a little bit. To have it for toast, it's good, but I thought my kids are not going to devour that the way they did the stuff that we got from Masstown Market last week. So I thought, I have all those eggs. I don't want this to go to waste. So I'm gonna cube this up and put it, it's only a small one. And of course this bread is not gluten-free. So Hunter can't have it, but it's only Philip and I and Georgia here today. And I don't know when JT's coming home. He was at a friend's last night. I don't know when he's gonna come home, but I just thought I'd make it. It's only small, it's a small one. Oh, look, I got a chip in there. Anyways, it's only a small pan. So we should be able to eat all of that and not have to worry about Hunter coming in by mistake and taking some. So let's get together. French toast casserole. Let's see what we got. So some of you may be wondering, I told you what I ate this week, but I guess I didn't tell you what the rest of the family ate. Leftovers. I had a lot of that fried rice left over, and I think there was one container still that had like a chicken dinner left over, so that was on Thursday. So usually when I put things, if I have enough food left, when I put them in the fridge, I have those takeout containers, like the plastic ones, and I put them in the reusable plastic ones, and I put them in as a meal. I don't put like the potatoes in and the carrots in. It depends on how much is left. Like I usually make up a meal. So when the night that I made the fried rice, I only had a little bit of corn, a little bit of carrots, and a little bit of broccoli, I think it was, and a little bit of peas left from previous things in the week. So I did combine those all together. But the rest of my family, I think I came home and half the fried rice was already gone, so they ate that. Philip feeds his father on Thursdays, and I think he went and got his dad pizza because I was working. So they went and they ate that. And then when I came home yesterday, which was Friday, Georgia had left me a beautiful present, a mess on the stove again, and her and I were talking last night, and she said she cooked herself a steak, and it's the first time, I think she said the first time she's ever cooked a steak. So she went out to the store and she bought herself a steak, and she brought it back. She's been craving steak and eggs for breakfast, so I don't know what happened. She ended up having it last night for supper. She might have had steak and eggs for supper, which is fine. But yeah, so the good thing about this pantry challenge is when I'm away, if they want something that I don't have in the pantry and they won't go cook it, then they have to figure out things for themselves. So whether they go and buy it, I like the fact that they're still kind of cooking for themselves, because this is a house that relies on Mama to cook every day. I don't mind. Some days when I'm getting home late, I don't want to cook, and that's when I love those convenience or easy, quick, throw together stuff. But this morning, let's get to the French toast. The first thing it says is to preheat my oven to 425, and then it says to grease my pan. So I have some bacon fat here that I'm going to grease the pan with. I almost feel like I was out drinking last night. I was not. I promise. So now I'm going to cut up. I'm going to check the recipe. I'm going to cube this up, but I don't know if I pour the eggs over it or if I mix it all in a bowl first and then pour it in the casserole dish. I better check. So it says half a cup of butter in the saucepan. To melt it, to butter or grease my dish. Now this recipe is for a 9 by 13 inch. This is not that big. So I'm just gonna do a little less than half a cup. Melt that on there. It says when it's done melting to put 1 cup of brown sugar in there. I'm gonna probably put about 3/4 of a cup, a half to 3/4 of a cup. Because to me that sounds like a lot of sugar in this. But while I'm waiting for this to melt, I will start cubing this up. So one of the big things with me when I cook is I worry about cross-contamination, and I just noticed, even though Hunter's butter is covered, it's just a little close to my liking. Now you probably would have noticed that when I put the butter in the container, I had taken this knife and I had cut a piece. That was because this never touched anything yet, and so I wouldn't contaminate the butter. I can use his butter, I just can't use his butter after I touch bread. So then I started cutting up and I noticed, that's a little bit too close to my liking. Even if it's just because if crumbs get on it or whatever, I just don't feel comfortable. So I'll move that out of the way. Now, I have melted my butter, almost done. And when I cook, like I said, when I'm cooking stuff like this, I try my hardest to keep anything that has gluten, like this bread was regular wheat bread. It wasn't gluten-free bread. So I try to keep them separate when I do this. If I was smart, I would have done all this beforehand. And I was also thinking another thing you could do is if you had the ends of breads, like you know how you have the heel of the bread or the end of the bread or whatever you want to call it, and sometimes people don't eat it, or you go and there's like one slice left and the heel. You could always just gather those up, throw them in the freezer, because that's still money, right? Throw them in the freezer, and then when you have enough, you could break them all up and you could use it for the French toast casserole, right? So, or the hamburger buns and the hot dog buns, like the way I make, you know, the finger, the easier way to have French toast and eat it with just your fingers. So those are just a couple ideas. Keep them in mind. I know I'm going to now, so yeah, so I'm just going to grab a measuring cup. So called for a cup, so I think this is a half a cup, and I was just washing my hands before I started this because I knew I was going to touch this and I was just cutting up bread. So I'm just going to put a little bit more than a half a cup. I packed it in first, but then I'm going to put a little bit more in. Okay, so once this dissolves, the brown sugar and the butter, I'm to pour it over the cubes. So as soon as that's completely dissolved and melted, in the meantime, I'm gonna get my eggs out. It calls for 6 eggs. I'm only going to do 5 because I can't do 4.5. So there we go. We got 5 eggs in there. And I believe it calls for a half a cup of milk. No, it calls for 2 cups of milk. I think I'm gonna lower it to about a cup of milk. Like I said, I don't want to make too much liquid. calls for 2 teaspoons of vanilla. A couple of other people too that I see watch on YouTube, you measure with your heart. I'm usually heavy-hearted. And then it says also for 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. So 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. It also says 1 teaspoon of cinnamon and 1 tablespoon of brown sugar at the end to sprinkle over the top. So we'll get this whisked together. I may or may not have started cooking this, I'm not sure. Doesn't seem like it's mixing together as well. That's okay. There's my brown sugar and butter. It's supposed to be all over the bottom. Move this over here so we can see it. Now I'm supposed to put my crumbs in. I know it looks like a lot, but I'm assuming that once I pour that egg mixture over top of it, this is gonna go down a little bit because it's, right now it's bread, right? And once it gets soft with the mixture. All right. Put it down a little bit. Now it says to give this one little whisk again, one little mix, and then it says to pour over. Now I've looked up some recipes, and some recipes say that you could do this and let it soak in the fridge overnight, and then you just get up the next day and throw it in the oven. I think that would be a cool thing if you had guests over, that you could prep this beforehand. Woo! We're getting rowdy in the kitchen today. You could kind of prep this beforehand and then just throw it in the oven in the morning. I think I'm gonna whisk up one more egg. I'm also the type of person, I don't want it to be too soggy, like too moist. It's just, I don't like that texture. I would rather have more egg than, I don't want it to be like bread pudding, if that makes sense. I don't want it to be mushy like that. So hopefully that egg will help it out. And then the last thing they say is a tablespoon of brown sugar. Tablespoon of brown sugar and cinnamon. I'm just gonna grab a cup. It's probably a tablespoon. Close enough. I use a spoon I would use on my table. And then cinnamon. And it says a teaspoon of cinnamon, but when I put that cinnamon in the egg wash, I found it to be, I don't know. We'll find out. It would be heavy on cinnamon for me. I'm not a big cinnamon fan. I like a little bit, a hint of it, but I'm not. So, anyways, mix that together. And if this is something that turns out really good and everybody likes it, then I might attempt to make it with Hunter's gluten-free bread, see if that turns out. So it says to sprinkle over the top. Now we're gonna throw it in the oven. It's to cook 25 to 30 minutes. So I'm gonna put the timer on for 25 minutes. And then I'm gonna check it. I usually do it, and usually it's always on the longer side, but I'm just gonna check it at 25 and see what we got. So timer's going off. Let's see what this baby looks like. Ooh. A little crispy on the top, but I think that's what the sugar, well, I think the sugar, that's what it's supposed to do. I'm gonna turn it off, and I'm just gonna let it sit in there for a couple of minutes, just because I wanna make sure it's cooked all the way through. I guess I should get a knife and check it. Yeah, it's kind of wet in the middle. Like I said earlier, I don't like that wet kind of red pudding, so I'm just gonna put it in there. I turned off my temperature, but I'm just gonna put this in for another 10 minutes, just to remind me that it's in the oven still. Because sometimes I get sidetracked.
Eggs in it?
French toast casserole. There's 1 minute left. Let's see what it looks like. You can see all the brown sugar in that in the bottom, but it looks nice and cooked all the way through. It almost reminds me of like a cinnamon roll. So, yeah, looks really good. Looks good, but the real question is, how does it taste? So I just took this out so I know it's gonna be hot. Little piece off the bottom. It's good. I think next time I should make it in the bigger pan and put all, like, the whole 2 cups of milk in and the whole 6 eggs. This would be an easy way to get rid of eggs if you had an abundance of them. I'll make it again. I guess now the thing is to ask or see what it would be like with the gluten-free bread. Oh, hot. When we make French toast, we usually put cinnamon. We usually sprinkle it over with the powdered sugar, icing sugar. And I don't think this needs it. Some people use maple syrup or pancake syrup on their French toast. I don't think it needs it. It's really sweet. So even with this, I might cut it down to maybe a half cup of butter and only a half a cup, or even quarter cup of butter, half a cup of brown sugar, because it is quite sweet, but it's good. So yeah, definite win.